Welcome back. Immigration enforcement remains one of the most closely watched areas of federal policy, with the operations and priority of U.S. immigration and customs enforcement continuing to generate debate in Washington and across the country. Questions about enforcement strategy, oversight, and operational realities are shaping how lawmakers and the public evaluate the agency's role. And joining me now to discuss is Dave Levinthal, investigative journalist and senior editor at Notice. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, appreciate it, Wyatt. Good to be with you.
Of course. Let's just kind of start out with the political football that ICE and more broadly the administration's deportation efforts has become. I wonder if the kind of efforts that they are pursuing here are paying off politically, even within their own base. Obviously, it's not paying off amongst the opposing side, but people would think that within the Trump administration and, those who are traditionally supportive of the administration, that it would be playing well. But some people are questioning that as well.
There are many Americans, many conservative, but some moderate and even some liberal who feel that immigration in the United States had grown out of control during the Biden administration, that the border restrictions were just simply too loose, that people were coming into the country illegally in droves, and this was not a tenable situation. But those same people in large numbers, and we can look at the polls just in the past several weeks, have indicated that there has been a massive shift in the other direction. So even though people who fundamentally believe what I just described have seen the photos and the videos and the images of American citizens being killed by immigration officials, have seen families literally torn apart, have seen children as young as 5 years old put into detention for no fault of their own, and all of this in aggregate has just proven to be too much for them.
Do you think, just in terms of kind of the role in which Congress plays, because obviously there's a certain degree where members of Congress who are supportive of the Trump administration more broadly are hesitant to speak out against them, and you're seeing this with ICE, but you're also seeing this with the Jeffrey Epstein situation as just another example. But you are starting to, I think, understand from some members after their constituents have been expressing concerns to them that politically this issue is not as safe or as kind of defiant as the administration is liking to paint it as. I'm wondering if you've been hearing anything within DC about the concerns that perhaps members of Congress are hearing from their constituents, and then the role that kind of congressional oversight here plays.
Oh, they have huge concerns, and they have both governmental concerns and political concerns. On the governmental end, we're about to have another partial government shutdown over the very issue of immigration and the defunding of the Department of Homeland Security, which ICE and Border Patrol are part of. So we don't know how long that's going to last. Funding runs out at the end of this week. And Congress basically couldn't cut a deal today. And they're going home and going to take at least several days before everyone comes back and tries again. So that's the governmental end. On the political end, well, Wyatt, we have elections coming up in November,
Yeah.
and everyone in the U.S. House of Representatives, every last congressman and woman, they're running for reelection. And on the Senate side, we've got about a third of the Senate. So those Republicans who have been supportive of Donald Trump's immigration policies, they are going to have to run on that. And some of them are not thrilled with the way that Donald Trump, during his first year of his second term, has executed those policies, and they see this being overreach or problematic, and problematic too for them back home with their own constituents.
And I mean, do you think, because you mentioned the political side of this, and that's kind of, I think, the obvious aspect in terms of what you've been seeing and what people have been observing on cable news, even. You have, the Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, you have the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry, kind of competing in this consistent back and forth with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, with Border Czar Tom Homan, with President Trump himself, even. And it seems as if the administration is really targeting these kind of Democrat run, blue run cities in particular. And it's not as if ICE isn't going to these other cities, but it certainly is becoming a big issue in the areas that are run by Democrats. Is that obviously a calculated play in some way, or what are your kind of observing, and what are your thoughts on that front?
The news today was that Tom Homan, the immigration czar for Donald Trump, had announced that, in essence, ICE and Border Patrol and federal immigration officials would be pulling out of Minneapolis to a great degree. Now, there's some skepticism around that. A lot of pro-immigration, immigration rights, and immigrant rights forces say, "Well, we'll see it. We'll believe it when we see it."
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, there's been basically a realization by the Trump administration that this is no longer going to be feasible for them to act
Right.
in the way that they had been acting in Minnesota.
All right, Dave Levinthal, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with him right after this. Stay with us.